It arrived in a gold-trimmed envelope. I recognized the stationery immediately. I had helped pick it out 2 months ago, hunched over her laptop in our parents' kitchen. She wanted it to feel elegant but warm, she'd said. I remembered how her eyes lit up when she found the ivory set with the pressed eucalyptus design. I remembered, too, that I'd paid for it. She had looked at the cart total, 1,268 Wutensangers, and said, "Oh my God, I'll pay you back," with the kind of empty certainty that people say when they never plan to. The envelope didn't have my name on it. It was addressed to guest of honor, reserved for family. No name, no mention of me. Not to my sister, not to Saf, not even my initials scrawled across the seal in her usual rushed handwriting. It felt sterilized, as if I were one of the 80-plus guests she barely remembered inviting. A placeholder. I held the envelope for a long time before opening it. I wish I could say I was surprised. I wasn't. The invitation inside was beautiful. Cream cardstock, gold lettering, the same pressed leaf motif curling around her and Mark's names. I turned it over. There was no handwritten note, just a printed RSVP card, already half filled, with dinner preference, chicken or vegetarian. No spot to write in a name. No +1 line. No personal acknowledgement. Just, "We are so excited to share this special day with our dearest loved ones." That last part made something flicker behind my ribs. I folded the invitation back into the envelope with shaking hands. The next morning, I texted her. "Hey, just got the invite. Just wondering, was this the final version? It didn't have my name on it." She replied almost instantly. "Nina." "OMG lol, no, that was probably one of the generic backups. You know how the printer messed some up, but you're coming, right?" That's when I knew it wasn't a mistake. You don't accidentally send a generic invitation to the person who covered the venue deposit, paid 2 months of your rent, and drove you to every single dress fitting. You don't forget to name the person who Venmo'd your wedding florist because your card was maxed out. You don't leave your sister nameless, unless you want her to feel like she doesn't belong. I didn't respond. That was new for me. I usually did. I usually smoothed things over, laughed off slights, told myself I was being sensitive. I would have replied, "Of course I'm coming," with a little heart emoji. This time, I just stared at the screen until it went dark. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on my mattress, staring at the ceiling fan, thinking about every little thing I'd done for her over the past year. The dress, the calligraphy place cards, the extra candles she added to the reception because she wanted it to feel like a soft forest glow. I remembered how she cried in my car after her third fight with Mark, how I had stayed up with her until 3 a.m., convincing her she was worthy of love, apparently not worthy of a name on a card. The next day, Mom called. "Sweetheart, Nina said you got your invitation. She's so excited." She was worried you might feel left out with all the maid of honor duties going to Kelsey, but you understand, right? Kelsey's the best friend, and you've just been so busy lately. I didn't say anything. Mom kept talking. Something about seating charts, and how she hoped I didn't mind being at the back table since they needed to group people by friend groups and vibes. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. I could hear the clinking of silverware in the background. She was probably polishing her antique cutlery for the bridal shower she'd told me not to bother attending. "It's just logistics, sweetheart. You'll still be there," she added. "Still be there." As if that was some great honor. As if being physically present could mask emotional exile. That weekend, I visited the venue again, alone, It was the last payment. I had said I'd take care of it, and I did. The woman at the front desk greeted me like I was the bride. Back again? You're always so on top of it. Most sisters aren't this involved. I smiled faintly. Yeah. I just want everything to go right for her. As I signed the receipt, I paused. The total. $3,217, $3,000 more dollars spent for a seat that didn't have my name. I folded the paper and tucked it into my purse. I didn't tell Nina I paid it. I didn't tell anyone. But that night, I took out the printed RSVP card from the envelope, and instead of checking yes, I wrote carefully in neat handwriting, "Thank you for the invitation. I respectfully decline." I didn't send the RSVP back. It sat on my nightstand, under the corner of an old lamp with peeling paint, slightly warped from the heat. Sometimes I'd glance at it before bed, the cream cardstock now dulled and curling. That single checked box, decline with regret, like a silent rebellion in ink. But I never mailed it. I didn't need to. She didn't notice. No one asked. No one ever asks. The wedding group chat was still alive, still buzzing. Dozens of messages each day. Bridesmaids showing off their dresses, hotel confirmations, last minute, details about hair appointments. I was still in it. No one had bothered to remove me. Or maybe they hadn't realized I hadn't said a word in 2 weeks. Sometimes I'd scroll through it in the quiet of the evening, in the soft light of my kitchen where the paint chipped near the window. The photos they sent were glossy, filtered, excited. A cake tasting. A fitting. A flower crown someone made as a joke. I hadn't been invited to any of it, and I couldn't even muster the energy to feel shocked. When I was younger, I thought being useful would make me loved. Not liked, not tolerated. Loved. I ironed school uniforms for her when Mom forgot. I lent her my charger and my favorite books and eventually my credit card. I helped her write college essays while she painted her nails on my bed. I watched her get everything she wanted by simply assuming it was hers. She was the kind of person people wanted to give to. I was the kind of person people wanted help from. Even when we were little, it was like that. She'd cry, and I'd get blamed. She'd forget her lunch, and I'd split mine. She'd ruin something, and I'd lie to cover for her. It became so automatic. My hands cleaning her messes, my mouth staying quiet, my name left off the invitation. I remember once, maybe 5 years ago, we went to a restaurant for Mom's birthday. I had planned the whole thing, called in a favor at the place I worked, arranged for a private table, even ordered a small cake with gold writing on top. I sat across from Nina and watched her talk over me for most of the meal. She told Mom she'd found the spot on Yelp. She took credit for the wine. At the end, the waiter brought the bill to me, because he knew I was the one who booked it. Nina looked over and laughed. "Oh, thanks for covering, Soph. I totally forgot." "My wallet," she said it in that breezy, charming way that makes it seem like a joke. Everyone laughed. I paid. No one offered to split it. This wedding was no different. It was just bigger, louder, more expensive. I was financing a stage I wasn't allowed to stand on. A week after the invitation arrived, she texted again. "Nina. Hey, any chance you can pick up the veil from that boutique downtown? I'm swamped with errands this week. I'd owe you." I stared at it for a long time. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I typed, "Sorry, I'm working late all week. Can't." I hit send before I could edit myself. It was small. Pathetic, maybe. But it was the first time in months. I said no to her. She replied, "Nina, OMG, okay, fine. I'll try to figure it out. No, thank you. No follow-up. I put my phone down. For the first time, I felt a strange, unfamiliar quietness settle over me. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't even anger. It was the early stages of something I didn't yet recognize as relief. A few days later, Mom called again. This time, her voice was tighter. Controlled. Nina said you've been distant. She's really hurt, sweetheart. She said you didn't respond about helping with the veil, and you haven't RSVP'd. She feels like you're pulling away. I didn't answer right away. Then I asked, did she tell you who paid the final deposit on the venue? Silence. Did she tell you who covered the florist when her card declined at checkout? Or who fronted the bridesmaid dresses when 2 of her friends couldn't afford them? Mom exhaled. That's not what this is about. It's her big day. I know, I said, my voice hollow. That's all it's ever about. I think she realized then that I wasn't coming. Not just to the wedding, but to them. To the role I'd been assigned in this family. Silent financier. Emotional trash bin. Invisible scaffolding for someone else's spotlight. I didn't say it out loud, but I think the silence said it for me. That night, I made tea and sat on my apartment floor surrounded by receipts. Florist, $980. Stationery, 1,268ers. Venue deposit, 3,217. Dress fitting rideshare credits, $140. Even the lace robe Nina wanted for her getting ready photos, $89 from my account, during a Black Friday sale. I added them up. I didn't cry. I just stared at the total and whispered, I wonder if she'll notice when it all disappears. The florist called me 2 days later. Hi, Sophia. Just checking. Was the final bouquet design confirmed? I hesitated. Her voice was soft, polite. She had no idea she was calling the wrong bride. No idea that the woman footing the bill hadn't been invited to the tasting, that I didn't even know what the bouquet looked like. Sorry, I said carefully. I'm no longer involved. You'll want to contact the bride directly. There was a pause, then a quiet, oh, okay. Thanks. I ended the call and stared at the spot where the phone had been. No longer involved. That phrase sat on my tongue like a key in a rusted lock. Heavy, final, almost elegant in its simplicity. I started going through everything, line by line, not just receipts, accounts, passwords. The digital thread of my involvement in Nina's wedding wove through dozens of places: Pinterest boards, Dropbox folders, Canva templates for signage, the guest list spreadsheet I'd formatted after her. Meltdown about uneven columns. I didn't delete them. I just removed my name. Logged out of the joint folders, unlinked my Google Drive, canceled the scheduled flower payments. I even returned the bridesmaid emergency kits I'd ordered in bulk last month. They were still in their packaging, little. Mesh bags with bobby pins, mints, tissues, stain remover, Band-Aids, and a tiny mirror. She would have never noticed who brought them. She still won't. The thing about being helpful is this. When you stop, most people don't thank you for all the times you said yes. They just get mad that you finally said no. 3 nights before, the wedding, I got a voicemail from Nina. She never leaves voicemails. Sophia, I don't know what's going on with you, but you've really hurt me. You're making this about yourself, and it's supposed to be my moment. You could have just said something if you were upset, but this silence, it's cruel. Click. She didn't cry. She didn't ask if I was okay. She just said I was cruel. I sat on the edge of my bed, holding my phone. My room was dim except for the light from my laptop, open to the RSVP list. She'd shared it with me back when I was helping manage the guest responses. I scrolled until I found my name, or rather, the row where it should have been. Column A. Guest, TBA. No name. Column B, family. Column C, table 8, back near buffet. I hovered over the cell, and then I did the only thing I needed to do. I deleted it. The next morning, I woke up to 3 texts from her. Nina. Did you mess with the RSVP list? Nina. Why is your name gone? Nina. This is not okay. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, but because I was starting to. Starting to care for myself in a way I hadn't before. There was something holy about that silence, like the space between one breath and the next. Not angry, just still. Later that evening, I opened the drawer in the hallway where I kept sentimental things I didn't want to lose. At the very back was a photo of us, Nina and me. Ages maybe 10 and 12. She's in a tutu. I'm holding her hand, slightly behind her. You can tell I'd just come off stage too. But no one's looking at me. Everyone's looking at her. That photo used to make me ache. Now it just looked like proof. Proof that I had been there. Always behind. Always holding steady. I placed it face down. The night before the wedding, the group chat went into overdrive. Bridesmaids posting hotel selfies. One girl in curlers. Another in a silk robe. Someone asking about champagne and whether the limo was on time. No one messaged me, not even to ask why I wasn't there. I left the chat without saying goodbye. At 11:47 p.m., the final text came from Nina. I really hope you feel good about yourself. I didn't respond, but I did. I finally, quietly, did. The wedding day passed like a storm I watched from indoors. I didn't check the group chat. I didn't scroll Instagram. I didn't open Nina's Facebook, though. I knew she'd post a carousel of filtered perfection by nightfall. I didn't need to see it. I already knew what it would look like. The soft blush arch I picked out for the ceremony. The champagne chairs I rented on my credit line. The flower arrangements they'd have to pay for in full now, since I had canceled the automatic draft. Knew the day would go on without me. I just didn't know if it would stand. I stayed in bed longer than usual. Not out of sadness. Just stillness. There was a soft breeze through the cracked window. The curtains danced. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. It was a normal Saturday, a wedding day for them, a quiet turning point for me. I made coffee in silence. No music, no calls. The mug warmed my palms as I stared out at nothing. For once, I wasn't rushing to solve someone else's mess. I didn't have a timeline to stick to. No boutonnieres to pick up. No urgent favor from Nina disguised as a sweet, emoji-laced request. I wasn't on anyone's schedule anymore. Around noon, Mom called. I didn't answer. Her message came through anyway. Hi, honey. I don't know why you're doing this. Your sister is really upset. She cried this morning. Said you're punishing her. She misses you. I know you're hurt, but family shows up. Family shows up. The words rattled around in my chest like loose change. I had always shown up. Even when it cost me. Even when I was tired, broke, invisible. I showed up when no one did for me. And still, I was only family when I was useful. I thought about showing up, quietly, just to sit in the back, just to keep the peace. But peace never came from my presence, only convenience. So I stayed home, I did laundry, read a chapter of a book I never had time to finish, watered the plant I usually forgot about. I lived through the hours she swore she couldn't do without me, and nothing broke. Not me, at least. At 6:13 p.m., the photos started posting. A mutual tagged me. It was a wide shot of the wedding party. Nina glowing in her dress. Mark looking every bit the proud groom. Bridesmaids flanking her in matching shades of dusty rose. The caption said, "Love is all you need. Oh, and the most gorgeous day ever. Jack, Nina, and Mark, 2025. I stared at the image for a long time. Someone else had filled the empty space where I might have stood. They always do. I closed the app. I didn't cry, but a kind of quiet grief settled in the room like dusk. Not over missing the wedding? No. Over how long I'd spent thinking I had to earn a place at a table I helped build. At 9:04 p.m., Nina texted, "I noticed you canceled the florist draft. Real classy move, Soph." Then another, "Hope it made you feel powerful." And another, 5 minutes later, "Don't worry, I'll make sure everyone knows who really left us hanging." I stared at her name, the tone, the audacity. Not once did she ask why. Not once did she apologize. Just accusations. Blame. The kind of messages that let you know your absence was felt, but never respected. Didn't write back. Not because I didn't have words, but because I had nothing left to give her. At 11:38 p.m., I received a Venmo request from Nina. 4. Reimbursement for day of assistant. We had to hire last minute an amount, $250. Stared at it. And then I pressed decline. That night, I slept deeply. No dreams, no nightmares. Just rest. The kind that comes when you've finally stepped off the stage they built on your back. The kind that comes when you stop begging to be seen. 2 days passed before anyone called again. This time it was Dad. I knew because his number lit up without a name. I had deleted his contact last year, after the conversation where he told me I shouldn't be so emotional about Nina's promotion. Dinner being scheduled the same night as my graduation. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail anyway. "Sophia, you need to fix this with your sister. This is getting out of hand. We're all trying to move on from the wedding, and she's still really upset. You should have just come. It wasn't worth making a scene." I stood in my kitchen listening to his voice echo against the tiled walls. Making a scene. Funny, I hadn't even shown up. And yet, somehow, I was the one stealing focus. I went back to work the next day. Nothing dramatic. Just emails, deadlines. A coworker asking if I had any fun weekend plans, and me forcing a half smile that didn't touch my eyes. I think I said something like, "Just caught up on rest." There was no part of me that wanted to explain the truth, that I'd ghosted a wedding I funded, that I watched from the sidelines as my family posted group photos without me, that I spent Saturday night reading an old journal and trying not to grieve the version of myself who used to say yes to everything. No, I kept that part to myself. Some things are too sad to share with people who won't stay long enough to understand. I got an email the next morning. Subject: "Thank you for your gift. From a wedding registry service." Nina and Mark had marked all my contributions as received. No personal message. Just a digital thank you from a template, as if I were some distant relative who mailed in a casserole dish. I clicked through to the registry site and scrolled. My name was next to venue payment, partial. Floral arrangements, hair, makeup team deposit satin. Robe set stationery package, each one fulfilled in their log. Each one paid for in full. There was no space for notes. No way to uncheck my name. But still, just staring at it, something snapped. It wasn't the anger. I'd already lived through that. It was the clarity. For the first time, I wasn't confused about what I was to them. Not a sister, not a friend, just a name on a line next to the word covered. That night, I went to my storage closet. There was a plastic container I hadn't opened since I moved out of Mom's place. It held photos, old birthday cards, a handful of journals, and a few childhood crafts Nina and I made together. I pulled one out, a stick figure drawing of the two of us. She wrote her name in big looping letters. Nina. Mine was barely legible. Just a faint S and some uneven lines. Even back then, I was in the background. I lit a candle, and one by one, I shredded the cards. The journals I kept during high school, pages filled with begging entries like, "Why won't they notice me? And maybe if I help more, they'll love me better." The paper wilted in my hands. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't mourning, but because something cleaner was taking its place. Like peeling off a shirt that didn't fit anymore. Like walking out of a room no one realized you were in. 2 weeks after the wedding, I got one more text. From Kelsey, her best friend and the maid of honor. "Hey. Just wanted to say I think you're brave. I know Nina can be a lot. I hope you're okay." It was the only acknowledgement I got, and strangely, it was enough. I didn't need her to take my side, just to see that I had one. I deleted the group chat thread, unfollowed Nina, unlinked my Venmo from the shared florist account. Step by step, I reclaimed the edges of my life, not out of spite, but self-respect. I stopped waiting for an apology and started preparing for a life without constant justification. 3 weeks passed. No calls. No texts. No apologies. But I started to notice something else. The silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt earned. I no longer woke up wondering if I should have just gone to the wedding to keep the peace. I didn't check their socials. I didn't wait for explanations that never came. Instead, I started building something in the leftover, space they'd taken up for years, a life that didn't orbit around them. I moved the wedding receipts into a manila folder marked closed. Not because I forgave them, but because carrying it all around had become too heavy. And somewhere between the florist emails and the late-night texts accusing me of cruelty, I realized being the dependable one is only noble when it's not being used as currency for their convenience. I got a text from Mom on a Sunday afternoon. "You missed your cousin's baby shower today. Nina was there." She didn't say much. "You should come around more, honey. This is going too far." I stared at it. No greeting. No. "How are you?" Just another summons. Another reminder that my absence was the bigger offense than their erasure. I didn't reply. Instead, I turned my phone off and went for a walk. The sun was out. Early spring. The kind of air that makes you feel like starting over, even if nothing's officially changed yet. A few days later, I sat down with my bank account. I finally closed the shared payment app Nina and I had used for years. It had my old profile photo, me, smiling at some family event, probably one I wasn't truly invited to. I changed the photo, updated my name, erased all transaction notes that tied me to her wedding. There was something oddly satisfying about the final click, like pulling the last pin from a bulletin board and watching it fall clean. That night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring out, but curiosity won, and I listened to the voicemail. "Hi, Sophia. This is Camille from White Fig Events. We just wanted to confirm the cancellation of the standing venue credit you left under your name. I wanted to double-check that was intentional. We'll release it back to your account this week. And, for what it's worth, I hope you're okay. You were very kind every time you came in." I stared at the screen. The venue credit $500 hours, left over from the original deposit I paid. I had completely forgotten. It had been under my name the entire time. Apparently, Nina hadn't realized. I logged into the vendor portal. Sure enough, there it was. Refund initiated. Just enough to feel like closure. Just enough to remind me that I wasn't invisible. Just unthanked. I transferred it to savings, and in the notes I wrote, "For future peace." Weeks melted into a new routine. I started taking long walks after work, stopped skipping meals. I deleted the shared Pinterest board Nina and I had once, filled with backyard party ideas and vacation dreams we never took. In its place, I made a private one called Unshared Things. It was full of soft linens, secondhand bookstores, quiet corners of the world I hadn't seen yet, and furniture I wanted to buy for a place that would never feel like anyone else's house. I didn't tell anyone about it, not because it was a secret, but because it was mine. Finally, it started with a chair. I was walking through a thrift shop near the edge of town, one of those places where time folds in on itself. Dust settled softly on old glass and brass knobs. The radio was playing something crackling and distant. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, but then I saw it. A small, dark wood armchair. Worn velvet seat, carved floral detail along the backrest. It looked like the kind of chair that waited patiently in corners. Something solid, something forgotten, but never broken. I touched it without thinking. And I realized, for the first time, in years, I could buy something just for me. Not a gift, not a favor, not a, maybe she'll like this. Just something that made me feel rooted. I bought it. They helped me load it into my trunk, and I drove home with the windows cracked. One, hand steady on the wheel, the other trailing wind. That evening, I rearranged my apartment, pushed the bookshelf to the other side, moved the rug, made space by the window for the new chair, a reading spot. I didn't text anyone about it. No photo, no caption. It felt sacred. A quiet declaration. 2 days later, Nina emailed, not texted, emailed, subject, about the wedding. Stuff. "Sophia, I don't really know how to say this, but I wish you hadn't just disappeared. It made everything harder than it had to be. You embarrassed Mom and made people ask weird questions. I know you were mad about the invitation, but that was never the point. You still should have been there. You're my sister. Anyway, Mark thinks we should just put it all behind us. Family is family. Let me know if you want to talk." There was no "I'm sorry," no acknowledgement of what I gave. Only what I'd taken away, my presence. As if my silence had made the world tilt, not their choices. I reread it once, then again. Then I clicked archive. No reply. Later that week, Mom called. Again, I answered this time. Her voice was gentle, like she thought I might shatter. How are you, sweetheart? I'm okay, I said, and I meant it. There was a pause. You haven't seen Nina since the wedding. She says you've shut her out. I didn't answer. She's your sister. I know, I said quietly. And I was hers. Another pause. You're being unfair, she said. We all had a lot going on. Maybe you're just sensitive. The word landed like a pin in my spine. Not cruel, just familiar. And it reminded me why I'd built a life away from their vocabulary. I have to go, I said softly. And I did. That weekend, I sold the last piece of furniture I'd brought from my childhood room. A dresser I'd refinished years ago, pale yellow with chipped handles. I listed it online, and a girl with wide eyes and chipped black nails came to pick it up. This is beautiful, she said. Why are you letting it go? Because it doesn't belong here anymore, I replied. She smiled and nodded, like she understood. In the corner of my living room, the chair waited. I sat in it that night with a blanket and a book. No noise. No drama. Just me, at peace with the quiet. I didn't think about the wedding. I didn't wonder if they were still talking about me, because I knew now. They would always talk when I wasn't there. But I had finally stopped listening. Autumn came early that year. The mornings turned crisp in September, and golden leaves gathered in corners of the street like secrets. I started walking more, past bakeries that opened before sunrise, down streets I never noticed when I was always rushing to fix someone else's life. It had been 2 months since the wedding. I hadn't spoken to Nina since the email. I hadn't been back to our childhood home. I hadn't looked back. Not really. But some endings aren't explosions. They're slow exhales. And I'd finally learned how to breathe without them. One morning, I received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Just my name, written in Nina's familiar loopy script. Inside was a thank you card, the kind brides send after the wedding. Glossy photo on the front, all smiles. On the back, a single line handwritten in ink that was already fading, for everything you did, even if you never come back. No apology, no name, just the same erasure, this time wrapped in a bow of reluctant gratitude. I slipped the card back into the envelope, then placed it in the trash without ceremony. It didn't hurt, it just didn't matter anymore. The next day, I changed my number, not to punish anyone, but to finally hear my phone ring and not flinch. I created a new email, quiet, unlinked. I left the group threads I hadn't touched in months. I stopped checking their profiles. And I started writing again. Nothing big, just sentences in a journal I kept by the bed. Thoughts that didn't ask for approval. Pain that didn't apologize for taking up space. I went to a coffee shop I used to love, the kind with mismatched mugs and a single window seat. I brought my book, sat with my back to the door, and I stayed there for hours. No one texted. No one asked for money. No one interrupted. It was blissful. And it was mine. A week later, I visited the venue. One last time. I don't know why. Maybe to see if it felt like something. Maybe to prove that it didn't. The receptionist recognized me. "Oh, hi," she said. "You were the one who handled all those payments for the Garcia wedding, right? You were so organized." I just smiled faintly. "No," I said. "That's not me anymore." As I walked out, I passed the garden where they had taken their wedding photos, the same ones they posted online. The ones I was never in, the ones no one noticed I was missing from. I paused near the gate. The roses had wilted slightly from the season's shift, but there was something beautiful in that too. Things blooming. Then letting go. On my way home, I stopped by a small boutique, downtown. I bought myself a coat. Dark gray, warm, too expensive. The kind I would have once asked, "Would Nina borrow this?" Now I just asked, "Do I love it?" I did. I wore it out of the store without the bag. Back home, I sat in my chair by the window. The apartment smelled faintly of clean laundry and early rain. Outside, the trees moved in slow rhythm. I thought about all the versions of myself I'd been, the helper, the silent one, the reliable ghost in every family photo, and how none of them were in the room with me now. Just the me that stayed. The me that finally said no. The me that never had a name on the invitation, but still found a way to belong. Some silences are heavy, but this one felt like freedom, not loud, not bitter, just done.